What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Movement Mindset powered by Station Athletics. I'm Chris Hardenberg here with Joe Pasalacqua. We have JJ Valentin on the ones and twos because Brandon's gone
Yeah,
like
because
a
he's
loser.
moved to the jungle.
JJ, say hi.
Hi.
That's all you get of JJ right now.
You're never gonna know what he looks like.
So today, guys, we're going to be talking about a topic Joe and I have been, trying to frame all our decisions around for probably the past 2+ years now is looking at every decision of, okay, how does this scale? Basically, when we grow as a business, whether it's adding staff, adding locations, how does the system, the process, what we're doing, how does it scale and allow us to grow? And how can we replicate it across a growing company?
Yeah. So just to kind of piggyback on that is every decision that we make now
Mhm.
is exactly what Chris said is, okay, we want to accomplish X. Okay. So how do we create the framework around the decision of if, for instance, say we want to open up 3 or 4 more gyms at one time. Okay.
Theoretically.
Theoretically. Yeah, we're doing that shit. So we have a plan of, okay, if we're going to create a new district, we're going to shotgun and open 3 or 4 or 5 locations at a time. Okay. So the framework around that is how do you support those 3, 4, 5 locations at once? And it's having people in place to do that. Okay. So for us, it's okay, we need a district manager. We need someone above that. Chris's position theoretically would be like a regional CEO position that would be managing that to be able to funnel everything down to be able to handle. Okay. And then if you take that reverse all the way down to the things that inside the gym, if we have, for instance, a meal plan change, how does that affect the client experience, or how does that affect the ability of the GM to implement that one movement? So you can look at it at both sides.
Yeah.
From a really, really small change, which in my opinion is still very, very important, even to honestly the bigger opening up a new gym comparative to a micro thing is actually a much easier thought process because it's very broad in
Yeah.
the spectrum until you actually get into the greed of like, okay, these are all the little tiny things that need to happen. But it's really easy to go in and be like, okay, we're going to sign a lease or we're going to buy a property and this person's going to manage it. And okay, the contractor's doing X, Y, and Z, right? The ordering the equipment's like the easy part. The hard stuff is all the micro pieces. So it's really easy to be like, okay, we slap something on the window and okay, this is the new location until you get to all the small things.
Yeah.
Okay. So to implement things properly, the decisions need to be made on how do we make this easy for long-term growth.
Yeah, and that was something when we started it wasn't a rebrand, it was just a streamlining of our brand. Like that was like for us, I think post-COVID, obviously, but post-COVID, that was the first time for us to be like, okay, we have to nail down our brand. And that was the first decision of like, because it has to be scalable. Great example. You mentioned the meal plans, right? If we had a location specific logo on every meal plan, then if there was a change to one of the meal plans, now we got to send it out to our graphic designer to make these small changes across, let's say 6, 7, 8, 10 different meal plans instead of just one meal plan, one logo. You make a change, it's in the drive, everyone print and laminate.
We talked about this with our media staff, right? Same exact thing is if we have a video that we're shooting in Roseland and I have 3 to 4 different brands,
Yeah.
and he takes that video, now he has to cut it 4 times.
Yes.
So instead of it taking him 3 hours to do the one video edit per se, right, of time from shooting to editing, now he's spending 10 hours doing all of that. It's not effective. Right. And you do a disservice to your brand because you're not really growing one thing in particular.
And that's a really tough thing in business in general is because more often than not, you form systems and processes and hire staff around, uh, you know, solving a problem right now. So like I kind of tiered out scaling into 3 different phases. So you have phase 1, which is you create a system to solve a problem. So it's like Joe was running all the classes. He's like, I'm going to die. I need to figure something out. I hire John. Problem solved, right? But that one hire is not, you can't have one person working for you and have 10 locations, right? So that has to scale up as well. So then phase 2 is you create a repeatable system where essentially if you move out of doing something, I've created a repeatable system that somebody else can do. Great example. I did the vast majority of sales for a long time. I created a system around how to do accountability with the challenge members so that when I stepped out of doing it, I could map that onto someone else. And they're like, okay, cool. When I do accountability, this is the system or process to do it. And then phase 3 is you create a system that will carry you through to next steps. So that's kind of where we are now. And a great example of that was payroll. Kristen may or may not listen to this. I hope she does. But like the poor girl has been buried in payroll
Yeah,
changes.
like 30 hours a week.
Yes. And a lot of it was because
we are transitioning from one payroll
Yes.
company to a new payroll company.
right. So we're going to be using a company, and I think it matters. I'll say it, Paychex, which is a big payroll company. Previously, we used a small payroll company that had benefits for us as a very small company. But now when you're paying 60, 70 people every pay period, it's like, she literally told me, actually, I didn't even tell you this. She told me the other day, she's like, if we were still using Assure, it would probably every pay period take me 12 hours to process payroll.
Yeah. That's kind of what it was happening with Trotsky. It's the
Yeah.
exact thing. It was when she was doing it, or when like whoever was
Right.
helping. It was
So I'm like, 12 hours? She's like, yeah, because now she's like, if I section out a 3-hour block, I can get everything done payroll wise. But like, it was going to take 3 to 4 times that on Assure. And so that's where it's like, now it's like, okay, how do we form systems that map to 8 gyms, 10 gyms, 12 gyms and beyond? And that's a big thing. Like all our decisions have to map towards that. How does this
Yeah,
scale?
it's all about efficiency, right? So like it's so Chris talks about growth. For us, the way I look at it is it's just sheer efficiency. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. You could be in the restaurant business, or you could be working for $1 billion company. Everything needs to break down to being efficient in the process, so it takes as little time as possible to accomplish it.
Yeah.
So what we do is we look at something and we break it down. How do we automate the shit out of this to where we spend as little time, or our staff as little time as possible, with the same exact result if it was completely hands-on?
Yeah.
And a great example is our attrition, or excuse me, our all of our accountability conversations. That's all streamlined to where it is time consuming, but it is not nearly as time consuming as it would be if it was
Right.
completely hands-on
Right.
and manual. And then if you look at that from every single aspect, to the point to where like we're about to open Summit in about a month and a half,
Sure.
roughly. Okay. We spoke about this once before about Westfield. When we opened Westfield, we made like very small mistakes where like you and me agreed on, we were like 95% effective
Yeah.
on A to Z.
Yeah.
From the hiring process all the way through to opening. With Summit, I expect it to be greater than that.
Yep.
Okay. Because we know the 2 or 3 things that we could have done a little bit better on that opening.
Mhm.
And we've already progressed way beyond that because of who we've already hired, kind of like who we've placed in the facilities. Okay. So it just goes back to, it's now effective. The decision-making is effective to make it as simple and you can duplicate it as much as possible. Or so you can duplicate it being, I guess the word is like as hands-off as possible.
Yeah, and that's really what the name of the game is, because like, a lot of it in business is you create a process around like, okay, how do I solve these problems? And that's only going to get you to a point, right? Like that's the tough part, is you develop a system. It's like, cool, this works. And then it's like, oh shoot, now I got 6, 7 gyms and I'm managing a team of 8. Like this is taking a lot of time. And you mentioned it's all about efficiency, because really what it boils down to is if this task is going to take me, I thought it was going to take me 4 hours a week and it's taking me 8, that's 4 hours a week that I can't dedicate to do something else that's going to push the business forward.
So here's like a great example from like more people will understand this.
Sure.
Okay. One of my other businesses, right? I do not pick the phone up once for sales. Okay. Not one time.
Mhm.
I have a sales team that drives everything. And all I focus on is big picture, automation, marketing, traffic, things like that, to fulfill the time consuming part.
Right.
Okay. And that's how you develop business, to be able to go from one step to the next, because it's all about time management on how I can free myself up to then accomplish something else. Okay. Same thing with you, Chris, right? Like we've just done this, where we have effectively removed you from any district manager roles, because we just hired Dave to fill the other territory that we created. So now you are effectively being in the COO role for the first time since you've worked for me.
Right.
And you've technically been in that role for over 3 years.
Right. But the business demanded me to still be kind of hands-on in some ways.
It was the same thing with me, right? Like I'm effectively the CEO, but I was doing even GM tasks.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the first time, and I've spoken about this. This is the best I've ever been at my job because I can look at big picture and you can talk on it. Like, look how much I'm driving the business forward.
Yeah, I
Right,
mean, it's
because
been
of that.
huge for us to meet like on a weekly basis, and like it's not, you know, the last month I'd say like is the first time in a while where you don't have at least 50% of our meeting eaten up by like where are we at with this task? Where are we at with this? It's like, cool, we got these things coming. All right. How are we going to push the envelope forward in these ways? And like for you and I to have those conversations, for people who are not maybe this deep in business, they're like, well, what do you do? Just sit there and just like talk about, man, one day we're going to do this. And it's like, yes, but at the same time, it's like, how do we create a structure? How do we incentivize people? How do we push this person forward? How do we help this person get to this goal? And like conversations are up here, but it's what pushes the business forward. And you mentioned bringing on Dave. Like, I had a great conversation with him yesterday. He sat down with one of the people in his district, had a conversation, and realized that ways that this person was struggling. And I was like, huh, like they never told me that. And he's like, well, a lot of it is because you're so scheduled because you have to do so much that people are afraid to like bother you because they know how busy you are.
Mhm.
And that was the light bulb went off for me. It's like, I'm like, Dave, that is where you're going to bring the most value. It's because those conversations to help them overcome something is what's going to push our locations to the next level. And I'm at this point in the business, I physically cannot do that. And so to be able to tier that out and scale the structure appropriately is going to be huge to push us to that level.
Yeah, and it's like we actually just talked about this where remember one of the episodes we did was coaching class at the as a being a bottleneck basically. Like if you're a gym owner and like I'm the best trainer, all that shit. Think about what you literally just said.
Yeah.
You were to a point to where your quality was getting washed at the effective rate of you ran out of time to do things. Right? And it's like, yeah, we actually have less conversations during the week now.
Yeah.
Because we every Friday, like, okay, all these things got done.
Yeah.
I don't care who the hell did them.
Right.
Right. Because I know that they've been assigned properly.
Right.
Okay. And then you and me have higher level conversations of like, okay, hey, great. This is what we're rolling out like 4 or 5 big things next year.
Yeah.
Okay. On top of the locations, but like other things to enhance the program. But like you and me are now able to have that conversation and they say, okay, I don't care who does them.
Right.
This is when it's due. And then you present it to me when that piece is done. Right. So it allows you to really just drive. So again, basically what this comes to is decisions to make to drive the business forward, right? From just like a conceptual piece is time management. I'm making a decision to make things effective and simple at a scalable piece. And there's a lot of things that we've done that we thought pushed the business forward, which they did, but they weren't scalable.
Yes.
Okay. Like that's like a big component of this is it's like, especially in our marketing.
Yeah.
A lot of our marketing has had to change because it wasn't scalable to be able to duplicate it over and over and over again.
That's a great point.
And this is where you see a lot of the big gyms like F45s and Orange Theories fall apart. They run the same shit at every single location.
Mm-hmm.
We do not do that. It's based on the demos and what the reaction is of, traffic being driven to drive people, to the door. You can't run the same exact, what the hell do they run? Most of these places run like $7, 7 days.
$7. Same ad copy, same creative over and over again.
Right. So like, that's what I'm saying is that's one of those things that had to be done from a scalability perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also the managing side had to be restructured to be able to scale it forward.
Yeah. And so really the premise for this, guys, is to give people an understanding of what our thought process is as we go to scale and grow this thing to really help as many people as humanly possible. But if you're a gym owner listening, right, phase 1 is always create a system to solve your problem. But if your goal is to scale, and if it's not, that's fine, right? If your goal is to just own a single location, coach 10 hours a week and then that's it, and then do business stuff on the side, whatever. But if your goal is to really grow, know that you're going to have to find and create systems and develop a thought process of like, okay, cool, this works for now, but how is this going to work if I have 5 people working for me? How is this going to work if I have 10 people working for me? And develop systems around, okay, how do I effectively communicate that and go forward? That's going to take a lot of time and a lot of thought, but just know that's something you're going to have to dedicate a lot of time and thought to.
Absolutely. It's no different in any other business.
Yeah.
We could take the same exact process and put it into any other business and it would be just as effective.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, guys. As always, like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a follow on Instagram and a 5-star rating on the podcast platform that you listen to. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.